Good morning, Catherine Combasi. This is Reese Van Dyke from What's the Word Podcast. Today, we actually have someone very important today on the podcast. You should introduce yourself right now.
Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. That is who I am. Thank you for having me. Oh, okay.
All right, so today's word of the day is going to be leadership. We're going to go around the table asking what it means to some people. So I'm going to go first. To me, leadership means being to be the bigger person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, people who are not maybe in the right direction, you can lead them on, right? Steer them in the right path, or that in general. All right. Leadership to me means instead of it's a famous quote. Instead of being a follower, be a leader, because you don't want to follow someone in the wrong direction and go in the wrong path. You want to follow yourself and do what you think is right for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What leadership means to me is to steer the person in the right path and don't follow anyone else, like your own leader.
I love all those answers. I would say leadership is accountability. Accountability meaning not just holding others accountable for their behavior, but most important, holding yourself accountable, which is always difficult sometimes because you got your pride, you got your ego, you don't want to admit you made a mistake. But real leaders don't just tell people how to correct themselves. Real leaders can actually correct their own behavior. That's called a bar. Let me tell you a little bit about me. So I grew up in Schenectady, which is in upstate New York, near the capital, which is in Albany. It's about 2.5, 3 hours north of where we are. And I grew up in a working class family. My parents worked very hard to give us opportunity. I grew up in a church. I grew up playing basketball, and I ended up going to play Division I basketball at Colgate University, which we can get into at some point if you want to talk about sports. Right. I then studied overseas at a school called Oxford, a very prestigious academic school where I studied philosophy and political science on what's called a Rhodes Scholarship. It's a very rare academic scholarship that students can get. And then I came home and I got my law degree. I got my law degree at Harvard, another place that growing up, I did not think I would be going to, but by the grace of God and by studying hard, I was able to get there. Then I became a hip hop artist. So I went from doing law school to then becoming a hip hop artist out in Los Angeles for 5 years. I was I guess I would compare myself, at least I was trying to be like Tupac, but more the socio-political conscious kind of music, or now a Kendrick Lamar type of, or a J. Cole. I don't know if you guys like J. Cole. Okay. And then I became a lawyer after being a hip hop artist. So I worked in corporate America for 5 years. And then I ran for Congress. And I served as a member of Congress in Washington, D.C. And then I became Lieutenant Governor of New York about 4 years ago now, in 2022. Lieutenant Governor of New York is second in command in New York. Just like the president has a vice president, right? Every state has a governor and lieutenant governor. And I am like the vice president of New York. So that's me. I got twin boys. They turned 13 this year. I love them. They're pretty cool guys. And I'm excited to be here. And hopefully you can just pull at whatever I just laid out. A lot of different things you can just pull at.
All right.
We can go from there.
I do want to kind of go deeper into that basketball stuff.
Yeah.
How did you become D1? Like, when did you start playing?
So basketball was my first love. I was a big, you know how now the Lakers are, LeBron James team. Mm-hmm. Before that, Kobe Bryant and Shaq. Kobe Bryant I love Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. But before Kobe Bryant, there was Magic Johnson, which is before your time. I used to love the Lakers when I was growing up. And I started playing basketball really young, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. And I was practicing day and night, playing in the parks, going to camps, and ultimately was able to play at Colgate. My freshman year, Colgate was the 16th seed against the number 1 seed, The number 1 seed was UConn, and UConn had Ray Allen. You know, Ray Allen, who played with LeBron James and Chris Bosh. Right, that Ray Allen. So I didn't actually get a lot of playing time. I was on the team, but I was a freshman, so I wasn't getting any playing time then. But I was there, and I got to experience it, and it was cool. It's a lot of people. It took a lot of work to get there, though. And it wasn't easy because you had to balance the athletics with the books. And that's always hard. The higher you go, the more challenging it is to perform at a high level academically and to perform at a super high level athletically. You got to really have strong time management skills. You guys know about time management skills? You learn about that? You're going to need that in life, period. But certainly as you get more and more successful in life, you're going to want to figure out how to manage your time. Because if you can't manage your time and do things you shouldn't be doing, then you're going to waste time that you could be using for better things.
Along with all the things that you just described as you did through your life and all the hardships and things you did, I want to go into what most inspired you to become Lieutenant Governor?
Well, the people, the future. You know, part of being Lieutenant Governor really is being a public servant. There are different ways, there's different paths in life you can take. And there's no one path. Everybody's got to find their own path, right? So some people, might want to work in the private sector and be a lawyer or, be a businessman, whatever the case might be. Then there's another field where you can say, you know what, I don't necessarily want to work in the private side. I want to work in the public, which is for the people. I want to serve the people. And that was the thing that motivated me, was serving the people. And I'm inspired by being able to give back to our communities, to help our communities who've been struggling for a long time, to make sure they have resources, and to make sure that people that look like me see themselves in power, right? And know that they too have representation in government.
So since you had a lot of careers, out of all of your careers, what is your favorite one?
That's a good question. Well, first I'll say this. Everything I'd done, I did from a place of passion. Mm-hmm. So when I did it, I loved it, right? So what happens in life is as time goes on, maybe what you started off loving, over time, it changes. You want something else. But I would say right now, and I love being a hip hop artist, but let's be clear, I wasn't successful at being a hip hop artist. That was just my passion, right? Mm-hmm. But I love being a writer, being able to record music. But being in Congress was probably the most fulfilling because I was successful and I was able to help people in a real way.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, how does it feel being not really superior? I don't really know the word for it, but like, are you under pressure because your work is more advanced?
I think what you're asking, which is a good question, is how stressful is being in this job, right? Where you are responsible for a lot of people. That's a good question. And I would say it is stressful sometimes. It's a big sacrifice because part of the job is to not always be home, to be traveling around the big state. But I feel very grateful to be in this position because I care a lot about people. And the fact that I can help people, if that means I might be a little more stressed, that's worth it because I get to still help people. I think if you're anchored in your sense of purpose and what you want to do in the world, then whatever comes with it, whatever the stress is, whatever the anxieties might be, those aren't the main focus. The main focus is actually being able to do what you really want to do. And it's like somebody who trains to become a professional athlete, right? They know they really want to do it, but along the way, that it might be, practicing so hard they throw up, or they might cramp up, or they might go through a lot of things they don't want to actually experience. But to get to where they want to go, they're willing to have that experience. It's the same thing with the job that I have now. There might be things that I don't like about it. Might feel stressful, but I get to do what I really want to do, which is to help people.
What is your job like, actually?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So, you know what a governor does in the state of New York, right? The governor. So think of it again like president, vice president, governor, lieutenant governor. There are 3 branches of government, right? You know what the 3 branches of government are?
Legislative, judicial, and executive.
Great job. So the legislative branch makes the law, right? The judicial branch decides if the law is constitutional, right? Depending on the federal or the state. The executive executes the law. And you have a police force to help you execute the law. You have agencies that help execute the law. But you take the laws on the books and you go, now we have to implement these laws. So a president of the United States never actually writes laws. That's the job of Congress, right? The president doesn't get to decide if the laws are constitutional. That's the job of the judiciary, the judges. The president's job is to execute the laws and make sure that the laws are implemented. That same thing happens across states. Every state has a version of that. Because there's state laws, not just federal, but also state laws. And so in New York, as lieutenant governor, my job is to work with the governor to make sure that the laws that are executed in the state assembly and state senate are actually laws that are passed are actually being executed. So part of it is making sure that I travel the whole state and work with New Yorkers, young and our seniors and everybody in between, to figure out what are the laws that should be passed or what are the laws that should be fixed, to make sure that we can lay out a vision for the state legislator to say, here's some good laws to pass and we can execute to help the people. So if people can't afford their health care, or if they don't have good schools, or if we feel like people need to have better housing, I then can go to the state legislator, the Congress of our New York, and say, hey, we need to pass these kinds of bills because these are the kind of bills our communities need. And we get to decide how much money we want to spend to execute these bills, right? So a lot of it is executing the laws. A lot of it is traveling across the state, talking with people. The other point that I'll make is I preside over the state Senate, which is one of the chambers in the legislative body. So I get to sit over and make sure that all of the business that is being done appropriately.
When did you become
Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor.
In 2022, I was telling guys here earlier that I ran for Congress, which is the federal government, right? There's a difference. It was very important to understand that the federal government, which is when Congress passes a law in federal government, that law applies to all the states in the country. When New York passes a law in its legislative body, it only applies to New York. And that's how our country works. We have one set of federal laws, but then states are able to have their own laws as long as those laws aren't in opposition to the federal laws, right? So when I ran for lieutenant governor, it was in June of 2022. So I've been lieutenant governor since then, and I've been traveling across the state, going everywhere. Because do you know how many people live in New York? 20 million people. Now, what's crazy is, you know, people actually live in the 5 boroughs. Anybody know? 8 million. So almost, not as much, not half, but a lot of the people in the state of New York live in the 5 boroughs, right? But there's a big state that's outside of the 5 boroughs. Like, I'm from Schenectady, which is hours away from me. Right? So knowing how big the state is, my job, which is to represent the whole state, right? Not a section of the state, but the whole state. That's why it's so important for me to go everywhere and talk to everybody, every community, in more urban city areas, farmers, suburbs, everywhere.
What made you want to go down this path, like become the Governor.
Lieutenant Governor. Yes. I would say the most important thing for me is making sure that the communities that I come from, the knowing that there are a lot of communities that have historically been overlooked or neglected or left behind. If I could get power to help those communities, I would want that kind of power, and I want to do right with that power. And so for me, a big part of why I pursued this path is I felt like I could be somebody who could help our communities here in New York and fight for more justice, more fairness, and hopefully inspire young people. And I think the other thing is, and as you get older, you'll appreciate this. I think you got to follow your heart. And sometimes when you follow your heart, it's not even that you've made a choice. It's just the way you are, right? Like you just, and so for me, the idea of serving people, the idea of giving back, I think it is just the way that it's just something that gives me a lot of meaning and purpose. And I don't like to live life without doing what gives me meaning and purpose.
How is it dealing with the stress level at being a dad and having a job?
Okay. That's a good question. You guys have some good questions. It's hard because I really, really know the importance of being a dad. And I know that being present with my kids, my boys, is very important. But part of the job that I had, both when I was in Congress, which was in DC, so I was actually going to have to travel to DC, and my family was still in New York. It helped that I was able to be lieutenant governor and then stay in New York full time. But even then, I'm traveling across the state. So there's a lot of times where I haven't been home, or I might miss something that my kids are doing. And that's hard because I know that it's important for them to have me in their life. So I'm always trying to make sure that I'm always communicating with them to make sure that I get a sense of how they feel. And you try to make sure that there's at least a sense that, okay, well, daddy can't be there for this, but at least he knows this is happening. We can talk about it afterwards. Or if I do know, I can make sure I fit it in. So it's a balance, and of course, we have other people that help out in our lives. Obviously, their mom and their grandparents and, the whole community. It could be even people who aren't blood, right? Other coaches or mentors, other teachers, all of that is very, very important. So good question.
How much money do you make?
Not a lot. This is not a job, and this is an important point. I mean, do I make? Let me answer it this way. I am not rich. We are not rich. We don't make millions of dollars. We are not poor. We're not struggling either, right? Financially stable. That's a great way to put it. You could always want to make more, I guess, to do more things. But what's really important for me and my family is the value in doing the work. I could do other things that would make a lot more money. I could be a lawyer and make a lot more money. But for me, it's more important to do what I love, even if it means I won't make as much money to do something that I might not love as much. And everybody's got to make that choice in life. I'm not saying there's a right choice to make. I'm just saying that it's a choice. Hopefully it's a choice you can make. Now, you can't make that choice if you don't do a few things. Put yourself in a position to make that choice, which means studying hard, which means being disciplined, which means staying out of trouble, which means, doing everything you do to be successful in life so that by the time you get to that position, you can make a choice. So right now, you guys are in the decision making, you're the building phase to make sure you're in a position when it comes time to be able to make that choice. And I hope and pray that you all are able to make that choice because you use this time to really put yourself in a good position.
Like, you had education, you went to Harvard for a few years. Like, what do you suggest that us students should do is so we can be successful later?
Well, you're doing it. All of you are doing it, really. Which is, don't be afraid to ask questions and to lean on your teachers and your people in your community who love you. Don't ever be afraid to show what you don't know. The sooner you are able to work out or figure that out, the more you can grow and get to the next thing. So I raise my kids and I tell them all the time, there's a couple of things you need to know in life. One of the biggest lessons is discipline. Discipline is a very important thing in life. And the way I define discipline is doing something you do not want to do over and over again. That's how you build discipline. When you are able to do something you don't really want to do, you might want to get the outcome, but you don't want to do the thing that actually gives you the outcome, right? So like you may want to be an NBA player, but you don't want to practice countless hours to get there. But discipline is putting that work in. So the sooner you can figure out how to build that muscle to keep doing things and apply that to studying. So if you don't understand something, don't just give up on it and say, I can't get it. Like actually keep working. Keep working. I was never the smartest person in my classroom, even when I went to Harvard. I was never the smartest person, but you know what I was? The hardest worker. And I would outwork every other person in my classroom. So they might get to the answer faster than me, but I would get to that answer. And I would keep going and keep going and keep working and keep working. And that doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just get born with that kind of ability. You have to train yourself. So maybe before you go to bed at night, you got a book you're looking at. I don't want to read that book. I'd rather do this. That's the choice you got to make right there. That choice. When you're by yourself, nobody's watching, just you. Do I want to just not do that? That's how you build your strength and your discipline over time. And it won't be easy. And there'll be days where you won't do it. And that's okay. You got to forgive yourself and then come back the next day and do it again. That's how you keep building your discipline. And with discipline, anything is possible.
What's your top 3 NBA players right now?
Oh, right now?
Yes, right now.
Well, I'll be honest. I was a way, way more of a basketball fan when I was growing up. And even before I got into politics. It's a very busy life. My favorite right now, I know for sure, is Ant-Man. I love, I was just saying, I want him to win a championship. I want to see him in the playoffs. He reminds me of Michael Jordan. He's the only one that, Anthony Edwards. He's the only one that I think reminds me of Jordan. After him, it gets a little bit shaky. I mean, I like Luka, but he just got hurt. Right? He just got hurt. And I like Wemby. I think Wemby's, I've never seen anything like Wemby. He's incredible. I mean, he looks like a video game player. Like, doesn't look like a real player. He looks like he's like a character. But he's really talented and he's very humble. And he plays his position really well. So I like Wemby. I would say Wemby, Luka, and I don't mind Gilchrist either. Is it Gilchrist? The guy from the Thunder? That's his name? Shea, yeah. He's all right. I like it. You don't like Shea?
But you just said all right.
You're disgusted by that word choice? You think it should be like, you think he's top player?
Yes. He doesn't want a chip.
No.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to go down. He's a bit of a flopper.
Yes,
thank you.
I don't like flopping. I don't like it. I just think it betrays the game. Like, play the game the way you should play it. Don't cheat. Just get the bucket in the real way. Don't do extra stuff. There's no need for that. When I played, the whole idea of flopping, and when I say when I played, I'm not talking like 50 years ago. I'm talking like 20 years ago. It was nowhere to be found. No one was flopping. And in fact, to be clear, if you were in the park and you flopped, that might be a bad thing for you. Right? That wasn't going to be no one was going to like that. So now that we have a whole league where people are flopping and it's like rewarded, I don't know. He's a freaking flopper too. Listen, the last player that I loved was Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant didn't flop at all. So I respect that LeBron James is, one of the all-time greats. But if you were to say to me my top 5 all-time players, okay, forget now, but all-time is Jordan, Kobe. Then maybe I put LeBron. And then at that point, it could be anybody from him. I mean, I love Magic Johnson, Durant, I think can be argued up in that mix. You could even look at someone like AI. Like there's a lot of different people once you get past, 3 and 4. You got some names? Who am I missing? I think Kyrie might arguably be, because I mentioned obviously Steph Curry's is a whole other animal. But I think Kyrie arguably might be the most. Curry's probably above him. But pure point guards, I think Kyrie might be the best. Point guard. Oh, come on. Don't say Steve. This guy talking about Steve Nash. I mean, he stole the MVP. Now he's talking about my era. Steve Nash stole an MVP from Kobe Bryant. Yeah.
Because he went back to back, right?
He went back to back, and he shouldn't have won back to back. Who thinks Michael Jordan is the best ever? I'm just curious.
Oh.
Okay, see, that's what I'm saying. Then Kobe. Yeah. See, a lot of folks want to put LeBron over Kobe. Bugging. I agree. It is a lot to put. LeBron has, how many rings does LeBron have? 3 or 4? 4. One of them was in the bubble. Kobe won 5. And I didn't flop.
Who do you think is going to win the championship this year?
Those are the last words? That's a question. I would say, I hope the Knicks pull it off. I don't think they will. All right. I'm not saying they will, man. Probably. Again, I haven't watched this closely, but I haven't seen the Celtics play since they got Tatum back. So I don't know how they look. But I know that the Thunder are really good. I know that Shea's really amazing. I know they got a really good team. I'm curious to see what the Spurs do because this is their first time really, being in that, that conversation. And Wemby, he's an MVP candidate. So, I don't. It's hard to say because I don't think I'm that in tune. I don't watch a ton of it, just casually, like reading headlines. What do you think? I think I know who you guess, but
Who?
The Thunder. No.
I got Timberwolves in 5.
See, like Ant-Man. I hope they take it. We need Ant-Man to win. I mean, I do. I think he's incredible. I love his energy.
Give it up.
That was great.
So on behalf of the staff, the teachers, and Catherine and Count Basie, we just wanted to take the time to say thank you for coming to visit with us and to take out the time to invest in our young people. Our young people take their education very seriously. And we always talk about the power of their voice. And so you just provided a working example for them to never forget this opportunity that you took out the time of your schedule to come and spend with them. So we thank you. What do you think about our studio?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the students here. You're right. The power of their voice is very important. Education is very important. When I was a kid, my parents always tell me education was it. We used to cut coupons and put clothes on layaway, all that stuff. And they say, listen, you keep working hard, you get a good education. Nothing's promised to you, but you at least have an opportunity. And I listened, thankfully, and they certainly were hard on me too. And it helped. But the key is also the environment you're in too, right? And having teachers, having people that care about you, having the opportunity to sit in the studio and get this kind of experience and kind of exposure. You know, this is really, really amazing. And not everybody has this opportunity. So I could sense that you all understand and you're grateful for that. But also I would just say, continue to believe in yourselves. Continue to believe in your own power. Nothing's going to be perfect. Never going to be a straight line. But if you just continue to believe in yourself and put the work in, you'll always give yourself a chance at success. But you got to keep believing in yourself and your own voice. And the last thing I'll say is, to your point, finding your voice is happening. You don't know what your voice is yet. You shouldn't know what your voice is yet. You got to grow. You know, if you sitting there talking about, I know this, I know that, then maybe you should slow down a little bit because you got to grow into your voice. You can't grow into your voice unless you do the work, unless you study and learn about the world, learn about who you are in the world. So this is a great opportunity and a great space to learn. And conversations like this are tremendous opportunities to learn about yourself and learn about each other and be vulnerable and be open with each other. You know, I think it's a really, really important thing. So I'm glad you guys are doing this. It's teaching you how to communicate as well, which is very, very important. Shout out to What's the Word?
Outro music.
Oh, there's outro? Yeah. Okay. I just noticed that your shirt is accountability. I just noticed that.